Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, February the 21st, and it is a reasonably sunny day where I am, and the weather has certainly warmed up, so we are no longer at minus a bazillion T. So that's good for us. I do want to take a moment and recognize there's a lot of you, particularly in the States, that have experienced extreme weather this week. And we certainly have been thinking about you. You know, for the last couple of weeks when I've complained that it's been minus a bazillion T where I am, it also comes with the recognition that where I am, we sort of expect over the course of a year that we will experience minus bazillion T weather. And there are a lot of you that are experiencing very atypically cold weather for which you are not. Municipalities are not equipped to handle it, and it's very atypical and has caused all sorts of problems. So we are thinking about you. Certainly have been thinking about you all week. Do want to do my usual thing saying safety first. Please, 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 whatever you're doing, please think about safety first. We want to make sure everybody gets out of our current situations alive and healthy. So safety first. For cold, as someone who is very sensitive to the cold, my answer is layers. Layers, layers, layers. Start with the short sleeve t-shirt, then put on the long sleeve button-up shirt over top of that, then put on the cardigan, then put on the coat. You may still be cold. Then put on like the poncho or put a pashmina around it. Layers, layers, layers. Hoodie helps with the head. All sorts of things. Layers are your friend. You may feel quite constrained, and that's atypical for you, but let's be warm, and layers are your answer. So please be safe. Please be safe. Safety first. I've heard some stories coming out from our southern friends where it's just like, oh, I know why they did what they did. It just wasn't necessarily a safe choice. So safety first, safety first. I would like all of you to be able to watch anybody you want on Flosstube once your situation has gotten better. And with that, I will say, if you are new to my channel, thank you for stopping by and spending some time. If you, and I hope that you enjoy what you see. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for stopping by and coming back and you know, also spending some time with me. I will say last week was a really good week for comments, so I really do appreciate the comments. It really does feel like I get to have a little bit of a conversation with the people watching my Flosstube, and not just the few friends who have my home phone number and phone and give me the, you know, the in-person reviews of how my Flosstube video was. I would also like to say thank you very much. I did, this week I did go out to my LNSs. I went and visited both of them this week, now that it was no longer minus a bazillion T. Went and visited with both of them, and at one of them, it was really exciting because there was a lady who said, I watch your Flosstube. So thank you so much. I didn't catch her name, but thank you so much for commenting and telling me that you watched it. Really made my day. And kudos to her, because she recognized me in my winter gear with my face mask on. So she recognized me from this. So anyway, thank you so much. You made my day. I was very excited about it. And I know it's not just my, you know, 5 friends that phone and give me the reviews that watch me. I know that there are more of you, because I can tell, because you comment, and that's how I know you're watching, and you're new friends to me. But it was very exciting to have someone just stop by and say, I watch your Flosstube. It was very exciting. So thank you so much for saying that. And yes, if you ever see me in the wild environments, please feel free to just stop and say hello. Would love to meet you in real life. And with that, I'm going to continue moseying on because I have a lot to talk about. I'm a little bit afraid of how long this video is going to be. And don't forget, you don't necessarily have to watch it all in one go. You can watch it in multiple things. Just make a mental note of where you're stopping. There's a lot to talk about. Okay. So let's talk about some of the things that are new. Oh yeah, hang on. So the topic for this week says, let's talk about Lent. So I will reiterate that this is a YouTube channel about stitching. And even though the topic says we're going to talk about Lent, we are not necessarily talking about the religious implications of Lent. So if you're worried about that, that's not what it's about. The topic, as usual, come at the very end of the video. So if you're, for whatever reason, you don't want to hear anything about Lent, you can always cut it off before we get to the topic. Okay, so what's new and exciting in the land of stitching this week? So a couple of things. Needlework Expo is coming. It is running the first weekend in March. Again, it is an online, it's a virtual expo for wholesalers. So I, as a retail customer, cannot necessarily participate in the actual shopping directly from Needlework Expo, but I certainly can put in an order with my LNS. And again, in the notes below this video, there will be a link to the Needlework Expo website. They have a Facebook group. They have a hashtag on Instagram, which is hashtag Needlework Expo. So that's where you can see what's being released for the Needlework Expo. The Needlework Expo site is also the place where you can find which LNS, local needlework shop, brick and mortar shop, or online version of that are participating in Needlework Expo. So those are the shops that will be able to place an order to get the charts and patterns and things that are being released for Needlework Expo. And so that's where you can, if you don't have an LNS that's very close to you, then the answer is that's where you can go on and you can find, someone who's going to be carrying what you want. And again, not every LNS is going to order from every single exhibitor at Needlework Expo. They're going to have to make their own decisions. So you'll have to, again, that's another one that if your LNS isn't ordering from who you want or isn't showing you, one, check in with them. Two, it's also the place where you can potentially go find other shops who may be ordering in the charts that you're wanting to get. We'll be getting to that a little later in the program. There will be more on that coming. All right, so Needlework Expo, very exciting. And again, I'm like, stop. Okay, we're now close enough that my answer is stop with the sneak peeks. Just show me the chart so I can assess, because I'm gonna have a we all knew I was gonna have a problem. Stitch from Stash and my budget and all that kinds of things. There's Stitch from Stash is going to be a topic this week. We'll get there. Okay, so Needlework Expo coming. The next big thing that has come out this week. There's my board. All right. So last year, we talked about Traditional Stitches, which is an LNS for me, located in Bearspaw, Alberta, so just outside of the city limits of Calgary, Alberta. And this is their 20th year of operations, which is a fantastic milestone achievement. So kudos to Janice for 20 years. And she has a number of exclusive charts that are being released during her 20th year. The first one was Hands Across the Sea sampler chart called Anne Morrison, which I think I've got video, well, I know I've talked about it in videos, so you can always go back and look at that. It was a limited edition exclusive chart that you could only get from Traditional Stitches. Unfortunately, if you didn't take advantage of that, the limited edition is sold out. You can still order the supplies from Traditional Stitches, but the charts are completely sold out and you can't get them anymore. So, sorry about that. Hence, we're talking about the exclusive charts when they're coming up, because they're exclusive charts, and if you want them, you need to get on the bandwagon, and I'm here to help you get on the bandwagon. So I knew that this chart was coming. So one, I've done very well because I have not told you what what this was, even though I technically knew. Sometimes I get some secret information. I don't share it unless I'm allowed to. So this one is the next exclusive chart for Traditional Stitch's 20th anniversary year, and it is by Blackbird Designs. So an exclusive Blackbird Designs. Again, you can only get this chart from Traditional Stitches. So I'm just going to show you what it is. I always have a hard time. So the name of the chart is What Remains is Love. And again, so this, I have just printed out the picture from their website. I don't have the chart yet, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But, so here is what the Blackbird chart looks like. There's lots of things to talk about this particular chart. So again, you can only order this chart from Traditional Stitches. I will put a link in the notes section below on this video that is the direct link to the page on the Traditional Stitches website where you can order this. So you can order just the chart. You can order the chart plus the linen. So the called for linen, and this is where I have to take it to my notes. I've written all these notes on the back. So the called for linen for this particular design is Weeks Dye Works straw linen. And so you can order that from Traditional Stitches as well. They have it available in 28, 32, 36, and 40 count linen. So you can add that to your order as well. There are also so this is the cover photo. So this sample was stitched using over-dyed cotton flosses, and the cotton flosses are a mixture of Weeks Dye Works, Gentle Arts, and Classic Colorworks. So you can order those from Traditional Stitches as well. And again, I don't have the chart to my knowledge. I don't think any of the colors are unique. I think they're all part of the regular cotton floss lines from those particular ones, but don't quote me on that because I don't have the chart and I can't say that for sure. So, cautionary note. As I want to do, I speak of things that I don't necessarily know if it's actually accurate or not. I do, so the fact that I know that it's Weeks Dye Works, Gentle Arts, and Classic Colorworks is because it says that on the Traditional website for this chart. It doesn't give the color names or numbers, it just says it's those manufacturers. There is a second fiber option for this chart. So you can, there is a local silk dyer here, and it's called Fibers to Dye For. And it's, so the fiber dyer's name is Amy Mitten. And so you can, so Amy Mitten is doing hand-dyed silks in colorways to do this chart in silks. So one of the things that's unique about that is that the Amy Mitten silks, and I'm just going to call them the Amy Mitten silks because in my head that's how I think of them. Amy Mitten silks are very reasonably priced. So if you go onto the Traditional Stitches website, the difference in cost between ordering the overdyed cotton floss pack for the Blackbird exclusive chart versus buying the silk pack using Amy Mitten silks, I think the difference is $8 Canadian is the difference between those two things. We're going to talk about Amy Mitten silks in just a second. I just want to give you a little bit more information about this. Okay, so this exclusive chart was released to order on Monday, this last Monday. So it has only been available to order for, you know, a week now. And I will say they already have over 1,000 orders. So a couple of things. They were very, you know, since they did Hands Across the Sea and Morrison, and everybody learns something when you do something new, and that one was very popular. This one's very popular as well. So, and I'm saying this only because there are a large number of people who I know are not good about reading all the details. There's a lot of details on the Traditional Stitches website for this particular design. So if you don't pay attention, feel free to read because it's on there. But lots of people don't. So I'm going to tell you what, the design size of this chart is 165 by 171. It includes, the types of stitches used in this design, it uses cross stitch, it uses Smyrna stitches. Again, those are easy, don't let that frighten you off, and satin stitches. Again, very simple. So this is there's nothing, there are no complicated specialty stitches in here that should frighten anybody off. Now, the thread packs that are available to order with this chart are, the design of the thread pack is assuming that you are using one strand of fiber over two fabric strands. Again, the called for fabric is Weeks Dye Works straw linen, and again I gave you the number of the sizes of linen that you can see on their webpage. But the thread packs are being put together assuming that you will use one strand over two linen threads on your fabric. Now, there is a note on the web page that says, so if you are planning on stitching this on 28 count linen, that's your typical one, and you've used Weeks Dye Works or Gentle Arts, and you know that you don't like the coverage that is provided by one strand over two linen threads, there is a note on there to reach out directly to the shop, and they can work with you to try to figure out. They haven't stitched a model that's using two threads, so they can't be 100% accurate, but they can provide you with some guidance if you are wanting to use two strands. But the thread packs are being put together assuming that you will use one strand over two. All right, so the other thing, so again, I talked about this, so there's already over 1,000 orders. Again, it says it's right on the website. Now, we are still living in the pandemic. We are still living with supply chain issues for our craft. And Traditional Stitches is experiencing those just like, everybody else. Now, they have been working with the suppliers, both for the silks, the overdyed cotton flosses, and Weeks Dye Works for the linen, around how to deal with the demand for this exclusive chart that you can only get through Traditional Stitches. And so it says that they will be shipping these charts and any of the materials that you order in batches. Now, if you go to the website right now and you're ordering, they're already on batch number 3. So if you're going, I want to order this and I want to be able to get it in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's not going to happen. Sorry. Very popular chart, and there's limitations as to how much of the product they can get to do this. So again, sorry, I have to do it this way because I have to read my notes now. So batch number 1, which if you're ordering now, that ship has sailed. But if you got it in batch number 1, they're hoping to ship the orders from batch number 1 starting in late March. So already a month from now is when they're hoping to start shipping those orders from that batch. Batch number 2, again, That ship has sailed. Batch number 2, they're hoping to be able to start shipping those orders starting in early May. Batch number 3, which again, so I went and I looked on the website this morning to see what was what, and it already says that if you're ordering the supplies, you are part of batch number 3 for most of them. So I'm just pretending, if you order now, you're part of batch number 3, and they're hoping, and I'm still going to say hoping, because it's pandemic and things in supply chain and still unknowns, they're hoping to be able to start shipping orders from batch number 3 starting in early June. So just if you're going to place your order, you need to be patient, and please don't bug my LNS. Don't place your order and 3 weeks from now going, what is wrong with you? Why haven't you shipped my order? If you are choosing to order this, you are being put into a batch number, and there are very explicit time frames on there as to when they are hoping to be able to ship these. Again, it's dependent on supplies. So, but another exclusive chart. I know that there are more coming. We are not through their 20th anniversary yet. And again, because I stopped by the shop to pick up some stuff, which we'll talk about that later, got to have a little bit of a conversation with Janice. There's more coming. There are more exclusive designs. So a couple of things. If you want to know about the exclusive designs, there's a couple of things you can do. One, you can subscribe to, they have a YouTube channel under the name of Traditional Stitches, and I will put a link to that channel down below, so you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, she put out, it was a sub 10-minute video to talk about this design, so you can go and hear it directly from Janice about this design. You can also subscribe to their newsletter. I think this was got first released via the YouTube channel as well as through the Traditional Stitches and Morrison Facebook group. But again, there are already over 1,000 orders for this. I don't know if this is, so the Anne Morrison was a limited edition. I don't know that this is limited edition, but if this appeals to you, my answer is buy the chart now. So again, so maybe you're going like, it's not in the budget. I don't know that I can, buy the linen right now or whatever. My answer is if this appeals to you, buy the chart now, get your order in, period. Start with the chart, full stop. Because if it turns out to be a limited edition, you're going to be, there are people that I see, they get to join the Anne Morrison Facebook group, and they go like, but I can't get the chart. And you're like, yeah, sorry. So if you like the chart, order the chart now. Exclusive to design to Traditional Stitches by Blackbird Designs. And we know that there's a large number of people out there who are part of the buy all the Blackbirds. You can only get this from Traditional Stitches. Link in the notes below. Directly to the page on, so it's not how to navigate through the page. The link will be directly to the page on the Traditional Stitches website where you can order this. Chart, linen, fibers. There's also I've forgotten. It's one of those rings, memories of samplings of memories, one of those things. They also have one of those. Again, the page has everything related to this design on that one page for you to choose from. Okay, so that is the, Flosstube itchy nose. So that is the big new release, exclusive Blackbird Designs, only available from Traditional Stitches. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about Amy Mitten Silks. So I have a few of them. I don't have a wide raft of them, but I do have some in my stash. So I've hauled out a couple of colors. a little bit lighter. So here are 2 of the skeins that I have from my stash. So again, the color's not going to show up the best, not that I can read it. Killer Eggplant and Caper, green and purple. Hard to believe that I would have those colors. So this is what a skein of Amy Mitten Silks, or Fibers to Die For, looks like. So each skein is 25 yards, and it is single stranded. So some things like Gallianna, it's a 12, so a Gallianna silk skein is a 12 stranded silk skein. This is done in a single strand. Hence, it's also why these are a little more economical. If you want to try a silk, this is, this is a more economical option than necessarily buying a Galliana or something like that. The other thing about, and I don't know that you're going to be able to see this at all, is, so there's a little bit more of a twist to this silk than you see from like a Galliana or a Dinky Dyes. Again, it doesn't make it better or worse. I have a friend, these are her absolute favorite silks to stitch with, bar none. If she could stitch everything using Amy Mitten Silks, that's what she would do. You just can't necessarily get all of the same colorways from her that you can from the other silk lines. I don't know that I have a favorite silk. I like silks. Some people don't. And it's okay. Some people like silks, some people don't like silks. It's a matter of personal preference. Again, this is an economical way of, if you want to do the Blackbird using a silk, this is the option there to get the Amy Mitten Silks is a very economical way of doing it. Again, the cost differential between buying the silk thread pack and buying the overdyed cotton floss thread pack for this exclusive Blackbird Designs, I think is about $8 Canadian. 7, 8, something less than 10. It's in the single digit numbers Canadian dollars. So there you go. Again, but do remember that the assumption for the thread pack that they're putting together is that you will be stitching using 1 strand over 2 linen threads. If you have any questions about that, you can reach out directly to Traditional Stitches if you've got questions about that. So that's one of the big new exclusive, and again, like it's been available to order for a week. They have over 1,000 orders. The shipping is, batch number 3. I think I've seen in the Facebook group that they've been sort of saying, like, are we running a sale? Now, I can't speak for Janice. I'm totally talking out of turn. I have no knowledge. I have not talked to her about this. So these are just Judy thoughts. Solely, I need one of those solely attributable to me going, I don't think they're planning on running a sale, simply because, again, like with them shipping these things out in batches, like you can't start everybody at the same time. And, there are, even from the Ann Morrison, I saw it in Ann Morrison where people are like going, I think you need to delay starting your sale because I don't have my materials yet. And it's going to, early June is where if you place your order today, your shipment, they're hoping to be in a position to be able to start shipping your stuff starting in early June. So I think that absolutely factors into, again, whether there will be a sale or whether, I got nothing on that, but that's my personal take on whether there will be a sale or not. So that's just me talking with no knowledge. And have not placed my order yet. So I will be certainly not in batch 1, not in batch 2. Anyway, so that's one of the big new things. All right. if you only knew the quantity of stuff that I've got hanging around here waiting to be dealt with. Okay. I said this was a channel about stitching, so let's talk about stitching. All right. Let's start with my main February piece. So this is, I'm calling this Freda's Fancy February because my focus piece for this month is the Banquet by Freda's Fancy Stitching. And this time I remember to bring here's the picture of the completed design, pulled out from chart number 8. It was a mystery when it was originally released a few years ago. It's been released a few years ago, so no longer a mystery to me, which is why I'm allowed to stitch it now. So that's what it's going to look like in its entirety. Man, it's been a stitching week, let me tell you. Got random pieces of paper with notes and all sorts of things. I need to pay attention. Okay, so how did I do this week? Well, I stitched, so that's always good. So I had a goal for this week that I wanted to achieve, and I did not meet that goal. And we'll talk about that. So I was hoping that by the end of this week, I would have part number 3 complete. So last week, I don't know if you remember, so I was fighting with my eyelets. So my eyelets, I got successfully stitched, and now they actually do look like eyelets. So I had to haul out my awl spelled A-W-L. It's a needlework tool to help make those holes. So I actually had to pull out my awl and do that. So now I truly have eyelets, and I'm very happy with them. So got that done. I had started this, so this was completed this one. I think that's new this week. These two were the bane of my existence this week. Totally. Are they hard? No, they're not hard. This is a rice stitch, it's totally doable. I don't even know what these are called. Totally doable. So why was it a problem for me? Because I stitched this band here, and then I started working on these, and when I got to this diagonal here, I was counting because I was like, okay, I'm now coming up close to where I've stitched another part, and I didn't have the right number of threads left. There were supposed to be 6, and I only had 5. And I was like, how could you be off? So I completely freaked myself out because I went, maybe you stitched this big gigantic thing in the wrong spot. Now I went back and checked. This was done in the right spot. It was all good. So then I was trying to work my way back going, how could you possibly have screwed this up? And the answer is this nasty rice stitch, which is totally easy to do. I started 1 thread to the right from where it should have been. 1 thread. So I had to rip all of this out. I had to rip, unstitch everything that I had already stitched on this one and start again. Now, so this one is now in the right spot. This one I got past the same spot and I've now counted, and it's correct now. So I did not finish part 3, which was, not good for me. I really do need to finish part 3. There is still 1 more square left to go down here for part 3. And last night when I was stitching, I was like, well, maybe I'll just skip this one and I'll do, because in my head when I looked at the picture, just, quick glance, I went, this looked like this was going to be a very quick to stitch square. And the answer is, then when I sat down last night and read the instructions, there's a lot more stitching in that square than I thought. Anyway, so I'm behind. I should have had part 3 completed by today, and I don't. So one of my big stitching pushes tonight is for sure I need to stitch until part 3 is complete, whatever time that turns out to be. I need to stitch till part 3 is complete and start on part 4. You'll hear about why in a bit, but anyway. So 3 needs to get complete. I'm behind. And again, I'm also telling that story because I also like to be someone who says, and I see it in some of the comments on other people's YouTube, Flosstube channels or in Facebook groups where they're like going, everybody else is a way better stitcher than I am. Everybody stitches faster, their stitches are neater, their backs are neater, their blah 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 something something, you're all way better stitchers than I am. So I really want to make sure that you all understand, screwed up, one thread off. Now, caught it. You know, could I have fudged it over here? Sure, but it would have meant that I was unhappy, and because of how the squares line up, anyway. And again, my decision for me was I took it all out and I restitched it in the right stitches. So again, no illusions. Am I this perfect stitcher that, you know, does amazing things and never makes mistakes? No, I think I've brought them up before. I make mistakes. I have to take things out. I've done that several, again, last week, fighting with the eyelets. Shouldn't have been fighting with the eyelets, but was fighting with the eyelets. Now, solve the eyelets. Anyway, and then promptly made another really big mistake. Anyway, it's still a lovely piece. I love, love, love this. The other thing, again, because I got to go to my LNS, it's interesting. So the metallic that I have for here is different than the ones in the sample that they have. So I'm quite sure that I pulled the one that was part of the listing. Now, I think the original fiber that Freda used was no longer being produced by Kreinik, and she had given a replacement. But now I think mine looks really different. So one of my tasks is I need to go back and revisit whether I'm going to pull out just the metallic part in this square and find a different metallic fiber to do that in. So I need to check on that. I made a comment to one of my other friends and they're like, oh my God, like, don't do this. Like, why would you do that? You'd have to rip out so much. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This particular thread has only been used in this. So if I change my mind, all I need to do is take this out and restitch this. And this is not horrendous. So it's totally doable. It will be fine. But I need to make that decision. Now, am I going to make it in February? We've only got one more week left in February. So I don't know that I'm necessarily going to make it before we hit the end of February. And again, this is my focus piece for February. Do I think that I'm going to have all of the Banquet complete by the end of February? No. But I do think I'm going to have half of it complete. And my goal is to be able, for Stitch from Stash, I want to be able to claim for the month of February. I would like to be able to claim chart 1, chart 2, chart 3, chart 4 for this particular design as finishes for the month of February. So I need to sit down, buckle up, and stitch like nobody's business to get that goal accomplished this week. So tonight for sure, I am sitting down and I am not going to bed until chart number 3 is complete. Period. I can't afford to not have that complete. So that's the Banquet again. So an interesting week stitching on the Banquet because, had to rip a bunch of stuff out and that was super fun. All right. I also worked on the Never Ending Nativity. So again, this is the Marbec Nativity from Serendipity Designs, this great big 5-paneled thing. The camel is complete. If you want to see the camel complete, check last week's video because that's where I show the camel complete. So I've moved back onto, all I have left to do is the center panel, which is 2 distinct charts. There's a chart for the bottom half and the chart for the top half. I am trying to finish the Holy Family, which is the chart on the bottom. And so I have stitched When we left 2020, I had stitched everything on this chart except for Mary. So Mary was the part that I had left to do. So where did we get to? Not complete. Don't get excited. So here is the beginning of Mary. So she has been started. The parts that I have stitched are not the part where I'm changing the colors based on the recipient of this. But she has been started. So I will say that I am a color completer. And if you don't know what that means, it means for someone like me, again, part of it has to do with design size, and we'll talk about that in a minute. What I'm generally doing is I'm picking a color and stitching all of that symbol in Mary and finishing that color. So I have finished 3 of the colors for Mary. My next color gets to cover quite a bit, but there's still quite a few colors left to go. And again, my February focus is Freda's piece because it's Freda's Fancy February. So stitching priority is to finish part number 4, but I still need to make progress on this. So she's coming along. I can't wait to finish her. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. Anyway, but she's coming along, so yes, I need to do my weird. I'm not set up to have a good screen grab this week. Yeah, there's no good screen grab this week. But there we go. So there's Mary. She's coming along. Not complete, but coming along. So I stitched on that this week as well. Now, I also stitched on my Lent project. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about my Lent project until we get to the topic, so it'll all blend in together. Anyway, sorry about that. If you don't want to hear about the Lent topic, that's fine. Come back next week because the Lent project will just be part of the regular stitching topic. Okay, so that's my stitching this week other than the Lent project. Let's talk about a couple of my other regular things now. Hang on, this is where I have to check my... Okay. Check the piles because there's piles of things. Okay. I'm going to hold this one back. So Freebie Chart. So Nicola Parkman from Hands Across the Sea Sampler in her Facebook group has released a free chart. It is only available through the Facebook group. I will put a link to the Facebook group in the notes below. And it is called A Single Friend. And so the printout is terrible. It does not do it justice. And I'm going to hold it back because it is the actual honest to goodness chart itself. So this is what it looks like. I don't even know the size of it. It may be hard for you to read the words, but it says, a single rose can be my garden, a single friend my world, which I think is lovely. So that is available for free. So I have downloaded this, of course. So that is free from her Facebook group. Again, the link to the Facebook group will be in the notes below. It is not available on the Hands Across the Sea webpage. I did check through the Facebook group. But thank you, Nicola, for the free chart. Love it. Downloaded it. Am I stitching it anytime soon? No. We're going to talk about that in a minute as well. Okay. So that's the free chart. Again, I'm highlighting that because that's come up, and you know I get very worried about the free charts and how long they're necessarily going to be available. Free chart, get it while you can get it, if it appeals to you at all. Okay, let's talk about Stitch from Stash. So I have done the math on the camel as discussed last week. So the camel is going to give me a credit of, it will add $18.70 to my Stitch from Stash budget I haven't added it up. We'll do a full calculation for February next week. And again, I have reduced the size of the chart size that I'm including in that calculation, because there's just so much of the top part of that camel that really is not very much stitching at all. And I don't really feel like it's fair of me to my fellow participants in the group to pretend like there's a lot of stitching up there, because there's 3 rays and that's it. So I really just took it from the camel down and called it a day. And I'm totally fine with that. I'm not changing my mind, although anyway, that's what I've done on that one. I have not done the math on the Banquet, because again, I really need to get all the way through part 4, because part 4 will make it more square, and then I can do better math on that. So that's what I really do need to finish part 4 for February. Why? Because I've been shopping. I know, Stitch from Stash, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So a couple of things. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I have made a trip to both of my LNSs. I am one of the people that I am very, very fortunate that I actually have more than one that I can go to. In fact, I have more than 2 that I can go to. There's actually probably, then we get into more than 3, but to get more than 3, I have to drive more than an hour and a half, which doesn't mean it's beyond my capability. But during this time of pandemic, I'm not doing that driving just yet. But very grateful that I have LNSs, and part of my thing is I do want to shop because I want to keep my LNSs. I want to keep them in business, and they can only stay in business if I shop from them. So one of the LNSs I had placed several orders with prior to the end of 2020, and we talked about this earlier, that I had placed the orders, I had paid for the orders, so that they didn't impact my 2021 Stitch from Stash budget. And so from one of them I picked up some stuff, got quite a bit of the order in. Not everything has arrived yet, so I'm going to talk about that as well. So, you know, again, as I said a couple weeks ago, they had let me know that some of the orders had arrived and were available for me to pick up. I chose not to pick them up when it was minus a bazillion T, because I'm a delicate flower and need to be sheltered from the horrendous minus bazillion T weather. But I did go out this week to pick it up. I talked to them and I said, did the Picture This Plus order come in? And the answer is no. So I want to talk about that. So Picture This Plus, I had placed an order with my LNS at the beginning of September, and I know that they put their order in like very shortly thereafter. Like, I don't even think it was like a week after. Like, I managed to time that one really well. But we all know that Picture This Plus is running behind. And I think the last official numbers coming out from Picture This Plus were saying that it was, 5 months for them to ship orders. And the answer is, if you can do the math, I ordered this in early September. We are past 5 months. We're coming up on month number 6. And she did let me know that the order that my fabric was a part of has not even been shipped. Now, the order previous to that has been shipped, but has not yet arrived to the store. Now, again, I'm fine with this. I knew when I placed my order that it was going to take months for it to arrive. Months. And I was totally fine with that. I'm still fine with that because the fabric that I ordered does not factor into my 2021 stitching plans. But as I was talking to her, we were also chatting a little bit. Like, I felt ridiculous. It's, last week it was somewhere towards the middle of February, and I had commented on my video that I was thinking about my plans for 2022, and I know it sounds ridiculous and it doesn't make any sense. And, you know, we are barely into 2021. Why in the world am I thinking about my stitching plans for 2022? And then when I was catching up with her about Picture This Plus, I went, other than if, you know, if in the first half of 2022, if my stitching plans include Picture This Plus fabric that I do not currently have in my stash, I'm going to need to order it in the next couple of months in order to have it in time. So like if I came up with a new year, new start, and it needed Picture This Plus fabric that I do not have in my stash right now, I need to order that like in the next 6 weeks, or there is a risk that I will not have it in time for January 2022. And again, it's not that my LNS isn't ordering. They are ordering, and they are ordering items hoping. So again, they need to order whatever their order is right now. They need to be ordering for what they're hoping their customers will want 6 months from now, which means they don't even know what the designers are going to be releasing. So it makes it really complicated for them. They are ordering more than people the order that they put in September was more than just the things because I had put in a special order for fabric that they didn't have. They're ordering for their regular stuff, but it truly is a situation. And I am finding that, and it's not just my LNS, because, I watch other Flosstube channels and are part of other newsletters. Yeah, other shops are ordering their Picture This Plus, and they're all in the same boat. And so clearly by the time their orders come in from Picture This Plus, pretty much everything that they've ordered has been spoken for, right? It comes in and it goes out, because that's just how it's working, particularly when you've got, I'm calling it a 6-month lag to get the product. So there is that. And there's a whole variety of issues that are a whole variety of factors that are contributing to that. But if you order Picture This Plus, one, depending on who you're ordering it from, you need to know what it is you're signing up for. There are lots of sites where you can order it, but they don't have it in stock. So you need to know what you're ordering. If you place your order, my answer is, and if it's not in stock and they're ordering it, keep your order. Don't play the, I'll order it from 5 different stores and then whoever shows up with it first, I'll cancel the other 4. That is not fair to your shop owners. And there are a lot of them where if you've placed the order, you are not allowed to cancel it because it turns into a special order for them anyway. So if you're going to order, honor your order. Like me. Again, because I placed my order in September, I knew I was going to have to wait. But now I am sitting here going like, I may seriously need to start working on my 2022 stitching plan in case I need to order some fabric. Pandemic. Anyway. And it's not just the pandemic, again, because I got to catch up with my shop owners. They're also being impacted by the weather in the U.S. So, some of the parts of the supply chain are doing much better, but they had orders. They had orders that they were expecting last week, but because of the weather, they haven't received them. So, those ones where they were like, yeah, we should have had it last week. We should have been able to get it out to our customers. Sorry. And the last tracking information is like the shipment hasn't even made it across the border. It is stranded due to weather still in the U.S. So again, weather impacts all sorts of things. I've seen, there are shops down in Texas. I know Fat Quarter Shop put out a posting that said, welcome to, dear people, Fat Quarter Shop is located in Texas. We are currently shut down. So you can still order from them, but your order is not going to be shipped out till they can, safely get back to work. And my answer is none of us are going to die if the stitching supplies don't show up. we just need to be smart and say when Fat Quarter Shop can safely go back to work, Fat Quarter Shop will reopen and they will get right on your stuff. But safety first. There's been a lot of things over the last couple of years, like safety first, safety first. I know this is a channel about cross stitch, but safety first. Let's all be safe and healthy and all that kind of stuff. So the weather is having an impact on our shops as well, and their ability to receive product to fulfill your orders, as well as get product out. Again, if you're in Texas, they're not going into work. They're probably not shipping. Let's be safe first. Okay, so I did pick up some of stuff from one of my LNSs. I am not actually going to show that on this particular video because this is already going to be a long enough video. So I will be trickling that stuff out over the next few. I am going to show some other Stashquisitions because, yeah, I was doing so good. So good. So we'll talk about a couple of things. I have bought other things this week. Okay. So this one comes as a little bit of a surprise to me. It may or may not come as a surprise to some of you. So this is the Bent Creek Shamrock Row. So this came from one of my other LNSs that I visited this week. And so there's a couple of things that happened. One, I was going to the shop. Two, it is one of my LNSs that is, you actually can physically go into the store. So I have multiple LNSs. You can't necessarily get into all of them given the current restrictions where I am. But this one, there are specific restrictions. They only allow 3 customers into the store at a time. So we did really well when I and my friend went out there. That there were 2 of us, so it worked out really well. And the store owners were like, "You timed it really well because if you'd come out any earlier than this, they were at least doing well. They had people coming through the shop regularly, but they were generally at their 3-person quota for pretty much most of the morning, certainly through lunch. Now we had timed our visit because we wanted to go after lunch." And they had this in stock. Now, if they had not had this in stock, it is unlikely that I would have ordered it. They had it in stock, and I watched Helen D. She's got a Flosstube channel, and on her most recent Flosstube channel, she stitched this up, and she changed the colors. So this colorway is a combination of green and brown. She stitched hers up so that it's a combination of green and purple. And if you've watched my channel for any length of time, green and purple were colors that really appealed to me. And it looked fantastic. I loved how hers looked. And she's giving out the colors that she used on her, so one of my tasks for while this video is uploading is to go back to Helen's video and write into my chart what the color conversions are so I know what to do with this. I don't tend to do a lot of March Shamrocky St. Patrick's Day thingies, but hers just looked fantastic. And my LNS had it in stock, and I'm trying to support my LNSs. So this came home. So this is I'm going to have to, this is going to count against my budget, which is, that one's okay. This is not a budget buster. And then on Instagram, Galliana Cross Stitch, and I've talked about these guys before. I looked at their charts online. They have an Etsy store. They do have some of their charts available through the Silks app, which is only available for Apple products right now. So I follow them on Instagram. And she had a coupon code. So I will put a link to the Instagram page. I'm going to make you go find the coupon code for yourselves. Do her the courtesy of going to her Instagram page and getting that. But I will put a link to the Instagram page to make it a little bit easier for you. So there's a coupon for 25% off Galliana charts from her Etsy shop. And there are charts of hers that I've really liked. So I went and I used the 25% off coupon code. So I got 2. So the first one I added to cart is the bookcase. Shiloh from X Stitch MD on Flosstube is hosting a stitch along for this. There's a hashtag. I'm following it and I'm seeing. So again, this is one of these you can choose. You can do it in a monochromatic. You can use it in an overdyed. You can choose to use different colors for different books in the bookcase, and hence follow the hashtag and you can see what everybody's doing. And there's a ton of them that look fantastic. And I loved it from the start, but I was being really good at the beginning of the year and I did not buy it because it wasn't part of my 2021 stitching plans. But a 25% off sale is where I have a problem. So at 25% off, I bought the chart. It's still not part of my stitching plans for 2021, but I bought the chart on the sale. That was chart number 1. Chart number 2. So this is called Castle Christmas. Now they've got a couple of Christmas themed ones, and a lot of people are doing what I call like the other Christmas one. It's kind of like a house version. So there's a bedroom and a living room and all that kind of stuff. For me, I've got a lot of Christmas charts. It was very reminiscent to me of the Kringle's chart, which I also have. So I chose, instead of getting the other Christmas one from Galliana, I chose to get the Christmas Castle one. Because clearly it's completely different. So I bought 2. So that's 3 charts that I need to account for those will go against my Stitch from Stash budget. Again, the other loot that I got from, my other LNS doesn't count because I already paid for that stuff, and we'll show that on other videos, etc., etc. I will also, so here's my other confession. So I have started to order from my LNS items from Needlework Expo. The Jeanette Douglas ones that are coming out are like just one, because I've seen the models live and in person. So I've ordered 3 charts of Jeanette Douglas's from my LNS, but those are not going to count against my Stitch from Stash budget, as far as I know, because remember, I have that Christmas birthday gift certificate that I get to use. And so far, so I'm tracking my Needlework Expo spending so that I fit within my gift certificate, my Christmas birthday gift certificate. So watching carefully. There's other charts that I like so far. I have not ordered them yet. The Jeanette Douglas ones, even though they're not limited editions, I want those. They're going to come home. And again, I'm monitoring. There is a lot left to go for Needlework Expo. It's a big risk. But anyway, so 3 charts have been ordered. They won't count for my Stitch from Stash budget because of the gift certificate. So thank you to my friend who gave me the gift certificate. Saving grace. However, I have a friend who led me down the path of temptation, and I failed miserably. So I have placed an order with my friend. She and I have gone together so that we can split the shipping costs. I have ordered a piece of fabric, and I have ordered some overdyed threads. I won't talk about where I've ordered them from. I'm going to wait. So this is a new dyer to me. In fact, I hadn't even heard of them. I think I've casually heard of them, but hadn't paid attention to them. But it is one of the dyers where they don't ship to shops because, quite frankly, they're a one-person show. So there's only so much they can do. And as soon as you get into shops and all that kind of stuff, so very limited quantities, overdyed fabric, overdyed floss. So again, you need to be careful that if you need multiple skeins, you need to order them at one time, and she has limited quantities. So I've ordered some stuff from her so I can see them because they looked fantastic. My friend that led me down the path of temptation has also led me down the path where, like, she even pointed me to some Flosstube videos where you're like, if you want to see that one stitched up, here's who's using it, which was awful. So we've placed an order. Now, hence, I need to finish the Banquet Part 3 and Part 4 because I need those finishing credits along with my camel credits so that I am in the black based on what I've ordered from this other one. And I need to be really behaved for Needlework Expo. So I need to finish 3. I need to finish the Banquet Part 3 and Banquet Part 4 because I need those credits. Now, I haven't had to pay for it yet. I've tracked how much I've ordered. It hasn't shipped yet. So it, depending on when it ships, it will either be part of my Stitch from Stash reporting for May, or it could even potentially be April. Anyway. But I already know what the number, is. But I will still be in the black if I finish Part 4. So, and hopefully if I'm good and I can work on Mary, that will give me more credit to help keep me in the black. I am using up a chunk. I've used up a chunk. I knew March was going to be bad. And she certainly didn't help, but we will try this out, and then hopefully I will be well behaved. She said, yeah, congratulations, you made it 6 weeks. But I haven't blown through the budget. I have a path to still being in the black. Okay, so that is my Stitch from Stash reporting. We're already over an hour. So with that, if you weren't here for the topic, thank you for spending some time with me. Please like, subscribe. Always happy to take comments, questions. If you're here for the topic, let's talk about Lent. Okay, so Lent started on Wednesday, February the 16th is when Lent started this year. And again, this is not necessarily for the religious connotations. So a couple of years ago, I was watching Vonna Pfeiffer, the Twisted Stitcher, who is awesome. She has a YouTube channel. She's fantastic. You can follow her on Instagram as well. Love Vonna, love her finishes, love Vonna. Have I said that frequently enough? Love Vonna. Anyway, so a couple of years ago, she was posting about that she had a very specific project that she was working on for Lent, as she was observing Lent, and it was meaningful to her, and, so that's what she was working on for Lent. And I really loved the concept. And so last year, when I came up with my stitching plans for 2020, I was like, I'm going to be Vonna, I'm going to do a Lent project, and I did. It turned out to be substantially more meaningful than I had intended, and I'll briefly touch on that. But this is my project for Lent last year. I started stitching on this on Ash Wednesday, which was February the 26th last year. And again, so this was a piece that I inherited from my aunt as she was destashing. She had started it, so she had a little bit of the cross started. Let's hold that back out. And very unfortunately and very unexpectedly, the aunt who had started this and whose stash I inherited unexpectedly passed away on Shrove Tuesday, so the Tuesday before Lent started. So this was a very meaningful project for me because she had just passed away, and so I finished it on Easter Sunday. So I started stitching it on Ash Wednesday for Lent. I put my very last stitch into it on Easter Sunday. It is clearly an Easter themed picture. So again, so very, very meaningful for me. And these are the ones where, okay, I'll stop. I'll tell you what this is. So this is a pattern from Stoney Creek. Man, the glare on that thing is Sorry. Don't know why it's blowing out so much. Anyway, there it is up closer. So this is a Stoney Creek chart. This is out of book number 84, Touched by Grace by Stoney Creek. She did a color conversion, so the called for colors for the robe and in the flowers, according to the chart, are not purple. So she did a color conversion on this into purple, which was her favorite color. And so I put her initials down here are in purple, and my initials are down here in 2020 because that's the year that I completed it. So this was my Lent project from last year. Again, unfortunately turned into a very meaningful project for me. That's not bad. That's not completely blown out. Let's smile there and see if this is a screen grab. Anyway, so I had decided when I was working on my 2021 plans, I had decided I was going to work on a Lent project, period. Now, I have all these other stitching plans by month, so it's adding to the complexity of my stitching because I tend to be a monogamous stitcher. So I picked a Lent project. It's not small, it's not subtle, it's ridiculous when you, anyway, we'll get on with that in a minute. So I'm going to stop with the suspense because I have a friend who's just dying out there. She's like, shut up and just tell me the project already because she can't remember and I wouldn't tell her. So I am working on Jerusalem by Thea Gouverneur. Now, some people pronounce it Thea. I truly don't know which one is correct. I have always called it Thea, and while I'm stitching on this, I'm calling it Thea. Someone can correct me if they actually know the correct version. So we'll talk a little about this. This was the project that in last week's video I talked about that I had to spend quite a bit of time. I had the fabric. It came as a kit. I thought I was ready to go, and then it turned into a thing. So so what I'm doing, I have chosen to do this for Lent. So my goal is to stitch on this for a minimum of 30 minutes a day, a maximum of 60 minutes, which I've already failed at. But every day is a new day to try to work on accomplishing your goal, because I've always stitched for more than an hour. So this is meaningful to me. I have been to Israel. I have been to Jerusalem. I have been to all of the buildings that are shown on this particular chart, which is why I bought it. Now, so a little bit about Thea Gouverneur. You can, as far as I know, you can only buy her charts as kits. So that kind of annoys me, because I would rather just be able to buy the chart. Her kits come with DMC floss, but they will not give you the numbers. Now, you could spend the time and, go through your chart and do all that kind of stuff. And if I think I'm running out, I will end up having to do that, but they will not give you the numbers, which again annoys me. This kit, her kits, you can get them with either linen, and it will be specific. It's either Aida of X count or linen of Y count, and it's not Aida of a couple of counts, it's only one. And in my head, I want to say generally they're either 16 or 18 count Aidas, and the equivalent linens are your only options. So here is samples of some of the other charts. So she does florals as well as this. The ones that I'm drawn to from her are her cities. But I'm going to start with one and see how I do. If you want to see someone who is working on a Thea Gouverneur, Ginger Gerald is currently working on her London on Black Aida. It looks fantastic. It looks fantastic. So I've seen other people working on them, and they really look fantastic. Again, which is why I ended up buying this kit. Even though I don't like kits, I bought the kit. And so here's a couple of things about why I don't like. One, I'm having to do it on linen. I know, I could have taken the fabric from the kit and just replaced it with something else. The kits are not cheap. I'd already paid for the linen. I'm using the linen. I wasn't going to be changing the background color to something else. So I'm using the linen from the kit. Linen, my favorite. But the floss, so the floss comes on these cards. So there's, and so this one is folded up. So card number 1, card number 2, card number 3. So we know I don't like putting things, so these are kind of like thread drops conceptually, I don't like those, but I am now stuck with a really large project with this, but anyway, I'm doing it. I also have to say I'm not a big fan of her symbols, because there are things like, you know, a right side capital U and an upside down capital U, and, you know, a lot of the symbols are the same, but they're either, you know, one's right side up, the other one's, you know, upside down, or like they're just reversed from each other. And anyway, you have, so note, if you're thinking about doing a Thea Gouverneur, watch your symbols, watch your symbols, watch your symbols. And as I'm changing colors, I'm literally taking the chart and looking at the symbol that I am planning on stitching with next and holding it up to my card to make sure that I'm doing it the right way. And on their cards, they've actually had to put up and down so that you don't get them mixed up. So they know that they're using symbols that are very easily confused for each other. But it will end up being lovely. So, so the reason why I had to spend so much time actually getting this ready is because there were 2 more bundles that were not on the cards. Like, so you had those 3 cards plus 2 more bundles of, I looked at them and went, random colors. And there's a bajillion colors in this thing. So it wasn't necessarily going to be easy. Like, you couldn't just sort of go, ah, that's the blue or the green or the whatever. Sorry. Now, once I got my act together and I paid attention to my chart, so at the top of page 1, it said, here's bunch 1 and bunch 2 and the symbols for the colors that were in there. But I still had to take the bundle and strand them out, and even then some of these colors were very close together. I had to haul out my my daylight lamp to actually sort through the colors and then get them on the floss cards correctly. So I wasn't like, you managed to get some of them on there. Why could, anyway, never mind that, that's me. So note to those of you, if you're doing it, you may have to add them to your floss cards yourself. I am doing the Ginger Gerald method that says, so as I'm starting to use a color, I take one, you know, of a strand of 6 and pulling it off, and the used part is going on here. So these haven't been touched. This is what I've started with. The kits, again, so this is another example of a kit where they have provided you with the floss, but very clearly have said you are to stitch over 2 linen threads with 1 strand of floss. So again, if you got onto the Aida or the linen and you didn't like your coverage, you're on your own to figure out all of the DMC equivalents if you need more. And they've got a note on the chart that says you need to be very careful with your fiber. So I'm totally paranoid about, I have to use all of it. I have to be very thrifty about my things. Now, it's DMC, which means I would just have to sit down with my color card to solve the problem. But I don't want to spend that kind of time. Anyway, so I'm trying to be very good. Now, as I said, this is not a small project. So one of the things that I picked up from my L&S was a new pair of scroll rods that I'm using for this project. The scroll rods there you go. 36-inch scroll rods. This fabric, the fabric that came with the kit is actually slightly larger than a wide half. So the piece of fabric that I have for this is 36 inches by 28 inches is the fabric that is required to do this project. So am I finishing this anytime soon? Big fat no. In my head, I started this and I was like going, well, this will be a 10-year Lent project. Every Lent you can haul this out and work on it. And I think if I only work on it for Lent and I only work on it for like 30 minutes to an hour a day, it's going to be a 40-year project. So I'm revisiting that concept. But for 2021, I'm trying to limit myself to an hour, no more than an hour, a minimum of 30 minutes and a maximum of an hour. But again, I said I failed at that already this week. Again, because I was starting out and I wanted it to look like something. I also started this in the middle of the project. And again, for a couple of reasons. One, because at the top of this, there's a lot of empty space. And I was like, just start in the middle. So I'm starting here, my plan, so this is the page number 1 that I'm working on. My plan is to work to the top of the page and see how much page 1 I can get completed. There's 10, I want to say there's 10 pages in this chart. We'll see how I do on page 1 for Lent 2021. So here's where I am. So it's starting to come together. It's looking like something. Technically over here there's 6 stitches that I did on the following page because I didn't want to have to come back and go like there's 6 stitches of that color and that's it. Anyway, so at least it looks like something. You can tell that it is the center arch from this particular building. And again, if I'd paid attention, I would know what that was, but I've forgotten. But I've been there, I've been in the church. Anyway, so I've started, it looks not bad. And again, so what I'm trying to do, like over the course of this next week, I'm going to try to fill in this so this is solid. I took the biggest colors again because I wanted it to look like something. So it gets a little more finicky as we get into here. There's more solid blocks of color as we get up here, but again, we are 4 days into Lent. Technically, of the 40 days of Lent, you don't count the Sundays. We are 4 of 40, so 10% of Lent in, and I've managed to get that, so that's not bad. Again, this actually represents more than an hour's worth of work to accomplish that. So I failed on the stopping after an hour, but this week, because I've been shopping, I need to be very diligent about trying to work within my time frame. Because I have to finish part 3 and part 4 of the banquet. That's really, really important. And if I finished Mary, that would be great too. Anyway, so there's that. But it's coming along, and I'm very pleased with how it's looking. I think it will be fantastic when it's finished, which is going to be about 20 years from now. So I will say at the moment my plan is that I will only be working on this for Lent during 2021. But also part of my Lent project is I'm trying to work on my ability to not be a monogamous stitcher and work on multiple projects. So what this Lent project is doing for me is it's making me work on more than one project every day. And I will say I'm struggling a bit with that because it means that you have to change the fibers. Now, if the weather were nicer, because I have the ability in my home to have multiple, when the weather is nicer, hence when, you know, in the nicer weather when I stitch in the sunroom, like that's a glorious room to stitch in. Right now it's too cold to stitch in there. But what I'm working on is trying to train myself. So if I had 2 stitching spots, that I could leave some of this stuff out. Again, with these cards like this, you just can't leave this hanging out. Like it's going to turn into a mess. It has to be put away into its bag every night. It's already looking a little rat nesty. Gerald tells me it's okay. That these are not that bad. I'm trusting him. But I do put these away in their bag, you know, because now I've got 3 projects that are on the go. I've got the Banquet, I've got my the Marbec, the Never-Ending Nativity, and I've got my Lent project. And come March, I will still have 3 projects that I'm working on. So I'm trying to use this opportunity to work on my skills or assess my skills. Now, it could be that I get to the end of Lent and I go, I really dislike having to juggle between multiple projects. But right now I'm saying it could just be that you are really bad at it and you're not used to it, which is why it's, you know, not fun right now. But, you know, hey, I've got, what did I say? 36 more days of Lent to practice. They say it takes 28 days regularly to form your habit and get better at it. So maybe by the end of Lent I will be much better. Who knows? Stay tuned. I am using this as an opportunity to try something new, assess how I can maneuver within this, and we'll see how it impacts my stitching from that. So again, for me, I do observe Lent, hence the project that I personally have chosen for Lent is meaningful to me. You know, but again, I think as a community, we're also really great about coming up with ideas so that we can set goals for ourselves in our stitching. So Mania in the month of May, there are people who are getting ready to do March Madness, you know, Dark 13 stitching, Jolly July, Flossmas. Like we're really great about coming up with things to try to help us set goals for our stitching. And so I am using Lent this year to try to work on what I'm calling a stitching skill, the ability to stitch on more than one project a day. And again, I will evaluate come the end of Lent. I'm not loving it right now, but we are, you know, 4 days in, so, you know, not really the best time to judge that. So it'll be, to me, it's an interesting exercise, and that's why I've, you know, when I did Lent in 2020 and I worked on that Stoney Creek one, I worked monogamously on that project. So I was a monogamous stitcher for Lent last year. I am not a monogamous, see, I can barely say the word. I'm not a monogamous stitcher for Lent this year because I'm trying to work on something different and try building a different skill set. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. So if you choose to do something for Lent, that's great. I don't think there's any hashtags for it or anything. It's just something that I've chosen to do. And again, I was inspired by Vonna Pfeiffer. She's working on a Lent project. She's been posting on Instagram what her Lent project is. And again, I'm paying attention and I like seeing what people are doing for Lent. Again, I'm trying to work on a skill for Lent this year. We'll see how I do. On a non-stitching related project, the other thing I'm doing for Lent this year, again, this is something that I knew about a few years ago, and I don't even remember who started it, and it's called 40 bags in 40 days. And the goal, so it has to do with like decluttering your house and minimalist whatever, and getting things out of your house. And again, having gone through what my family's gone through over the last year and a bit, I have too much stuff in my house. So I need to work on getting things out of my house. So I am doing the 40 bags in 40 days for Lent. You get to choose the size of the bag. So these aren't like, so I'm doing like a Safeway sized bag. I'm trying to get rid of Safeway sized bag of stuff out of my house for the next 40 days. Some of them are really easy. In my head, I've got some fallback positions of where I'm going to go to make sure I get through those 40 bags. I'm a little bit behind, but paperwork. I am terrible about keeping up on old paperwork and getting it out of the house and all sorts of stuff. And I've got great plans about some of the work-related information that I have in paper form in the house that I want to be scanning that into my computer so that I have it electronically, hopefully filing it in the computer where it's easy for me to find, and not keeping the paper. And some of them, like I'm pretty sure if I go through some stuff, it will turn out that I have 2 printouts of the same piece of research related to my work. And I don't need 2. So, all of that's factoring into this. So that's my other Lent project. 40 bags in 40 days. I'll probably be reporting that on as well. I'm doing not too bad so far, a little bit behind, so I've got some catch up. As I say, in my head, I've come up with some really easy ones where at the tail end, if I just need to fill up some bags, I know exactly what it's going to be, which my friend says to me is like, if you already know that, just do that first. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm trying to do the harder parts first and not do the easy ones first. We'll see. Anyway, so that is all about Lent. Some stitching related, some not stitching related. Anyway, this is already a very, very long floss tube. So if you've stuck, again, you don't need to watch this all in one go. So I'm going to try to wrap it up really quickly here. Thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. Please feel free to leave any comments, questions, topics in the comment section below. Love getting the comments because it actually does make me feel like we're having a little bit of an actual honest to goodness conversation. It's not just me blathering on, enormously. Yeah, anyway, so feel free to leave comments. Look forward to all of those. Thank you for spending time with me. Please, everybody, wherever you are, let's stay safe, let's stay healthy, follow what your governments are telling you, regardless of whether it's the pandemic or dealing with crises related to the weather issues that are going on. Please, everybody, stay safe. I want all of us to come out of this safely and healthy. And with that, please take care, and I look forward to seeing you again next week for another floss tube, and we'll see how far I've gotten on my stitching. See you next week.